I play two hats. One hat as deputy chair of the Department of Management, and the other hat as president CEO of ICSB. My name is Ayman Tarbishi, and I want to introduce to you our second day of GW Entrepreneurship Week with this very good-looking guy on your right here. His name is Dr. Roger Matama. Is a currently senior lecturer at Makera University Business School, or MUBS. I love the name, and head Department of Logistics Management of MUBS. Dr. Rogers Matama holds a PhD in finance, focusing on family business from the University of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. So we have a colleague from Tanzania. He also holds a Master's of Business Administration in Finance from Makera University. So he is an established scholar, an incredible rising star at ICSB. He invited me to his session at MUBS, at his conference, which was an exceptional conference, very well planned, very well executed. It was an incredible list of speakers here, so we were very honored. ICSB was very honored to be invited, and I personally was very grateful and honored and really happy to be part of this great conference here. And with that, he has put family business on the map in ICSB in terms of discussions, ideas that come in from other parts of the world, not just Europe, not just the United States, but he is bringing a whole different layer, a whole different universe of what is family businesses. And this is exceptional. This is goes to the heart of ICSB, goes to the heart of what I teach in my class at George Washington University when I teach my course on family business. So I asked him, and I love his design, I asked him to come and share his experience with us on family business dynamics. Dr. Matama, we are delighted to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm happy that you gave a very humbling introduction of me, but I also would like to officially thank you for what you did in our recent conference on the 25th Annual International Management Conference, where you were one of the panelists. And I'm so excited that I have time now to join you and discuss in this Entrepreneurship Week. And it's good you gave me what I love, family business. You gave me a topic on family business. And let's try to share together, and I decided to call it Family Business Dynamics, where I bring out the nitty-gritties of family business. Let me straight away go to why the bother on family business. Why the bother on family business? In most cases, we take for granted what the concept of family business. We don't understand what family business is, and so sometimes we underestimate the value that we get out of family business. And yet we know that globally, the family businesses have supported livelihoods of human beings in various perspectives, whether in developed countries or in developing economies. We also know that the family businesses are innovation hubs. Most of the garages, the homes, the sitting rooms, you have the children now mushrooming from there and developing some things and coming up with heavy milestones in the business arena. We also know that most of the brands that we have in the world have some orientation of family business. To me, it is a very, very big step that ICSB always seeks to move on into the arena of family business. But let me also go ahead a little bit and tell you, there is something that is very unique in Japan. When you see, according to some studies, we've discovered that we can have 5,500 companies operating for over 200 years globally. But uniquely, Japan has, out of the 5,500, it has over 3,000 businesses, and most of them family-oriented. We have Germany, which has 837. We also have France with 196. But more importantly, we see that Japan boasts of having the oldest family business in the world. Now, this is something very interesting because the Kongogumi family started this by just building temples. And as we talk now, the business that is being run is actually being run by over the 40th generation. I know you, Ayman and the others, most of us having grandchildren, maybe we are celebrating 3 generations, 2 generations. But you can imagine 40th family generation taking charge of the nitty-gritties of business. And interestingly, something very interesting recently I was reading about Japan. Okinawa is having on average the individuals or people who on average can go up to 100 years. I think Japan has some luck in one way or another for longevity. Now, I will come back to Japan later, but let me just move on now. Now, some of you have been participating in our conferences, in these workshops in ICSB. In June, you remember that I told you the significance of family businesses. And I brought it out through the issues of transfers of where the government stacks and they benefit. I actually brought out the fact that South Africa was doing well compared to the other developed countries. Now, all this is trying to show us that the family businesses are not just a mere cup of tea to talk about. No, neither are they a mere cup of coffee to talk about. We see that in one or another, there is some serious significance in economies, whether developed economies, whether undeveloped economies or emerging economies. But also, we see that in the developing economies, some countries are actually doing much, much better in the angle of family business towards the contribution of the GDP. One of them actually, which is actually a neighbor to Uganda, is Kenya, whereby we see that the contribution of the family businesses towards the GDP, you see that it is even much stronger and much bigger compared to the GDP that this country has. Now, looking at Uganda, we're still trying. We're trying to move on, but not as good as Kenya and other countries in the developed world. I've just hinted already on Asia, and that's something that we should not take for granted. Now, let's move on, and this is actually the gist of the matter, the family business paradox. And I would like you to enjoy this. You see, this is where most people, you know what a paradox is? Something that is sweet and sour. Something that is, you cannot understand it. Some people say it's bad, others say it's good. So that now ends up into what we call a paradox. Someone says this is poison, another one says, no, this is not poison. So I'd like us to concentrate in this area, particularly this. And this is one now which will unpack the dynamics, the core dynamics of family business. Let's now move on and see these Venn diagrams. Now, the Venn diagrams, as we talk, you need to put into consideration that I'm using the word love. And I'm using it carefully. And I'm going to start with the world where, you know, these days we know what business is. Business, 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 business. But let me straight away go to what business is. Now, if Ayman does not deliver on time, the dean or the vice chancellor or the chairman of that board where he is belonging, because of the business dynamics, will cut him out. Will just say, Ayman, enough is enough. I've warned you several times. Based on conditional love, I will not continue with you. Now, something which is totally different within the family. A pure family, a family. Now, if you go to family, we have what we call unconditional love. Now, if Ayman is a brother or is a son and does not deliver in the family setting, for instance, delivering in what sense? He's supposed to be putting maybe food or delivering, taking a vehicle somewhere for washing, and it's in a family setting. If he doesn't deliver, you can't do anything. You can't kill him. You can't fire him. You just say, Ayman, I've warned you several times, but Ayman, I don't know what is happening. Ayman. You thought at Ayman, or you thought at Rogers. Rogers, I've told you several times, You are not understanding. Now, that's now where the gist of the matter is. In business, we're saying a conditional love. You do this, if you don't, you are fired, or you are disciplined seriously, and things will take on you. Now, in family, there must be unconditional love. What we do, it's okay. When things will not work, it's okay. You know, someone is not delivering, X is not delivering, or Y is not delivering, but you have nothing. You tried not to. Now, something very interesting is, we have the others also. Remember, you cannot run business without people. Now, you cannot run business without the supporters, the stakeholders, and all that. Now, we have the others, and I prefer to call these the stakeholders. And more so, some who are suppliers, the tax collectors, the workers. Now, these are also in the loop. Now, interestingly, these stakeholders are more interested in you as long as you deliver. Whether you have your conditional or unconditional love, they are not bothered. For them, actually, their love is pegged onto money. I will just give out an example of workers. When a worker is with you, whether you love him or not, at the end of the month, he needs the money. Which is not the case with a family member. Even if he's not delivering, he will work over a lot of time. Now, this is the center of the confusion that we normally say. So someone decides to say, me with family. Now when you combine the two, family business, then someone thinks it will not survive. But again, I'm telling you, no. The intersection of business and family can yield a lot of positives. And I will be explaining this as we move on. But the bottom line is for us not to rush to say that the family business is bad or the family business is good. There must be clear understanding of the dynamics that are in there. Now, as I go deeper in trying to explain family business, and after so many consultancies, after training several people, after looking at several things, I now see and I'm recommending the moving to a special gearbox. A special gearbox that can quickly synchronize very fast on high speed to know that this is family and this is business, but move on very fast. In the sense that the transmission at high speed, but also to appreciate the fact that there is a family orientation, yet the business orientation, which is a conditional love, is there and in full force. Now, going now to the positives. When it comes to relationships, and this one is based on my research which I did at the PhD. When it comes to relationships, and as long as it is a cohesive family, when it is a cohesive family, then we expect usefulness and supportiveness. Now, remember, there are other cohesive ones which are just inflated with no supportiveness and usefulness. And sometimes going to the level of nepotism and favoritism, and also going into excessive conflict. And I now come up to emphasize on the fact of blood. There's a tendency of people thinking that blood is the guide or it's the rule of running a business. And I say no. And I always indicate that a wife and husband, man and woman, those ones who have founded a business, it does not mean that they are blood related. And that's why I'm saying it's not blood. It's not just blood. And it's that unique relationship whereby the people, the founders who have decided to come together, they move on without unnecessarily thinking that it is the blood. And in fact, that blood issue is what has made people think that the gender categories, some of the gender categories are stronger and some are weaker, which I do not agree with. And that's why I say that blood is not necessarily the one to guide the family business. So, as we move on, there is some work that was done in 2011 by PricewaterhouseCoopers. They indicated that it is true that emerging markets feel that human resources need to be trained in family business. Now, this is not far from recent work that we did with Musisi. In 2020, we studied this year, we discovered that the relational capital is now becoming significant. And perhaps that's why we are seeing so many things on human entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, now going deeper into the world of human beings in the way of doing business. And so, in the mature markets, the developed settings, we see that yes, they are saying 64%. We are saying they need to train their human resources in businesses, especially family businesses, but also in the emerging markets. Now, in the emerging markets where we belong, like in Africa, most of the parts of Africa, like East Africa, we find that actually there is need for more training. But again, this need for more training, these are the few who even know the need for this training. But most of them are just bulldozing businesses without taking them to appreciate the tenets of family. Now, what are the business trends that we're observing of recent? There are a number of things that are cropping up. Now, these trends actually did not start with COVID. There is a tendency of people thinking that it's COVID that has caused a lot of turbulence. Even before COVID, 2018, 2019, we saw massive digitization. And I have a friend in UK is very, very keen on entrepreneurship and digital issues. Actually, I'm happy to see that Nasir is actually pushing for digital entrepreneurship. And thanks to ICSB, who are trying to work closely with Nasir. So the digital landscape is overturning everything. And you can imagine people who started long ago. You see Amazon, for instance. Amazon of recent, I got to know that the Jeff Bezos is actually the top rich man in the world. How? Just through digital solutions, logistics, supply chain, dealing with all these. Now, going back to the issue of blood, issues of gender categories, we now see, and I remember in June, there was some debate about the women and men, what should we do in family business. We are now seeing that women actually taking on top family business executive positions, and actually they are doing a lot of strategic thinking and directions for businesses globally. And we see that they are handling without any problem. Unlike the past where the women would be seen as not to be strong to run businesses. Then, something very, very interesting, takeovers and mergers. Actually, some people think that the takeovers and mergers have been prominent during the COVID times. But I want to assure you that 2013, 2014, 15, we saw a lot of massive takeovers. But interestingly, these takeovers, some of them have been undertaken by just family businesses. And I will be sharing with you something very interesting here. I like what is written by this Sky and group. They did some work, and I found this in the Business Insider. This was work which was published in 2015. Now, this it's very interesting that they just named it. The center is the cruise control. Cruise in the sense that it is showing the whole world where we're moving. But my interest is not about cruise, no. My interest is about what is going on. And if you noticed, I have circled this one, number one here as Tata. Now, Tata, based in India, having been under the control of Britain, comes and takes over and buys Land Rover and Jaguar. Now, if you know Land Rover is based in the United Kingdom. But Tata, which is from the other side in India, an Asian market, comes and buys Land Rover. But Tata, purely family business. with a line of many things, factories, transportation and all that. Now, something very interesting, we go to Toyota now. Now, Toyota, which is not a very new company when you look at Kongogumi, even if it is in Japan, Toyota is not a new company, it's a relatively a young company because it's not over 200 years. But Toyota started by Toyota. Now Toyota takes on the basics of running businesses and establishes several outlets across the world, whereby they even have Lexuses and all that. But my interest is not about what they have and what they have done, but the lessons of Kaizen, the Keiretsus that they are utilizing from Japan. Now, when you read about Samsung, which is this down here, now Samsung, when you read about the founders of Samsung, they tell you, you know, for us in Uganda, we know Samsung for phones, but I was reading and I found that also there are motors. Now, they are indicating to you that they utilize the chances of what Toyota and Toyota did. They actually use the TPS, the Toyota production system, to see that they succeed. Now, what do you see? We see that the Asian economies with the Hyundais and all that are now sending signals to other countries, and they are benefiting from there. I know there are so many others in the whole world, like Ford from America, Daimler in Germany. That's perfect. But what you can see that there's that kind of dynamism of founders of businesses who are family-oriented and taking on across the whole world with several branches. I'll tell you, like in Uganda, we have several branches, like 2 branches, and there's a lot of they are selling a lot of Toyota brands. And the vehicles here, you see a lot of Toyota products, Toyota products from the family of Toyota. So, what does this indicate to us? It shows the significance of family businesses. In a sense that we don't have to underestimate these entities, especially the fact that they can even merge and take over others, which also makes me feel that they are so solid for them to take over, even to survive within these problems of the pandemics and the COVID. But let me go back to the emerging economies. You know, it's not good for us to assume that things are the same everywhere. Now, in the settings that we have, especially where we are in the emerging economies, we see that most indigenous family businesses are in the first generation, some in the second generation. We have scarce in the third and the fourth generation. Now, we have scarce information, and I'm happy in June you insisted we should have writings, we should do studies about family businesses in Africa, in East Africa, and in emerging economies. So now, the world is not receiving the same dosage of information. Now, ICSB pushing for this kind of work is very, very important. It helps a lot to advance the family business fraternity. Now, with COVID, there is something that we also have to appreciate. If you notice, there's been emphasis on social distance. Now, social distance, 1 meter apart. That is physical. But I would like us to go deeper into what me and my friend Nasiru have been referring to. You can hear today when they're talking of COVID, they're talking of collective vulnerability. That you come together, there are chances of you getting even more dangers. Now, as academicians, we need not to stop at that. We need to go deeper and see what will be the impact on the cohesiveness of these entities. Now, but again, we know that the collective effort, especially of the people who have been together over years, there is that adaptation where we go to the collective intelligence. we normally tend to share with Nasiru when we talk of collective intelligence in the lines of those wild animals, what they do, particularly the buffaloes, the wildebeests and all that, what they do, the memory that they have over the waters and how to cross the waters to go, like the ones in Masai Mara. But now, coming back to human beings, you'll discover that we are tending now to go to the other space, which is the virtual space. And if we do not appreciate the collectivism element very well, then if we do not move on to adjust accordingly, especially in the social perspectives, and we just we physically now take on, and again we go to the psychological social distancing, then there is likely to be a danger on our family businesses. Of course, these are areas that need a lot of studies, and I'm sure this is one of the areas which we shall go on. Again, innovations and adaptations. I've just mentioned about Amazon, whereby you've seen the superbness in which they have been doing their work to oversee successes and advance very well towards the solutions they are offering to the world. And now, again, for the dynamics, we need not to forget about what I was mentioning about the stakeholders. Now, the internal stakeholders, those ones the families can always handle. Let me go back a little bit to the internal stakeholders. When I talk of the internal stakeholders, mainly I'm referring to the founders, I refer to the children. That one, I think, if the founder is very sorted, those ones he can always deal with, or she can always deal with them. But let me now go deeply about the external stakeholders. The external stakeholders, those are the ones beyond the fencing of the business. Now, one of the core stakeholder is the financial, the person, the commercial banks, sometimes the development banks. Now, these financiers need to do a lot of support for the family businesses. Why? Because of the nitty-gritties of these businesses. When I come to that, I want also not to underestimate the fact that even the human beings who are there, who are being trained, need to be well supported in the sense that they are within the orientation whereby if it is the founder, is the father or the mother, they will not say yes, no, because of that kind of respect. So now, that's where even the entities that are supporting, for instance, universities and all that, there is that special dosage, and I'm happy you are sharing with me that in your classes you are teaching your students about family business. Now, I want to assure you, if you had a father and a son in the same class, the son or the father would have some problems in answering simply because of assumptions of what will the father think or what will the son think whenever there is a wrong answer. Or maybe when there is a new answer and the son is the one who got to know and the father didn't. So now, those issues of respect, the hierarchies, the echelons, like you'll see in the upper echelon theory, those levels of decision making, if they brought them, and this is what I've been facing in training, in consultancies of family business, you'll find the wife tells you about the husband and the husband tells you about the wife, but when you bring the both of them, they don't feel like sharing openly. Now, these are things we need to bring out to the table. And good enough, the students should get onto this dosage. Then, it's important to recognize that these businesses are paradoxical. They are full of paradoxes. There is the positive side of the family and the negative side of the family. So the favoritism, sometimes you cannot rule it out, yet at some time you have to be conditional and push things. Now that's why I told you that you need a special gearbox which has very good transitions. Then cushioning from the strict capitalistic forces. You remember the typical economics says value for money, something for something. You do this, I do this, you do that. So reciprocity over things. It's not reciprocity for favors, but reciprocity for value. You do this, you clean for me, you take the vehicle, you do what, you get the money and you receive all that. So this cushioning, and that's why I am seeing the emphasis of the Sustainable Development Goals in everything. Today I know that there are a number of scholars, I know that Kezia from Tanzania and others are there listening. And the trend we are trying to see, you see that there is a social drive. The social drive, now you cannot talk of social and you forget about family. And that's where I enjoy, even when I'm too busy, I think this is a thing that one should concentrate on. Family, family, family. Now, going deeper also, when you look at the governments, now it's not enough for the other stakeholders to handle things by themselves, the financiers, the universities. No. There is need for governments to just borrow a leaf, to copy what happened in Asia, to copy what happened in Europe, what is happening in America, where there is a lot of support for the indigenous entities within those particular countries. You will not tell me that Tata went ahead and advanced to a level of buying Land Rover without support from the government. South Korea, recently, Ayman, you mentioned, very interestingly, and I learned a lot from that the government, in fact, even in our country, your friend Rugasira had told us some time back, in my book, 2012, I wrote a case on him, and he said that those governments are supporting those entities. No wonder Samsung has made it a record, the LGs. You see, they are doing very well. Toyota, the man called Toyota, supported by Japan, now everywhere in the world. Actually, there's a saying that the 3 vehicles in front of you are Toyota, and the 3 vehicles at the back are Toyota. Now, we go to Mercedes-Benz, Germany. You see, when I was in Germany, I got to know that there was a lot of support for this Daimler family and Mercedes-Benz to move to that level. Ford, the same. Now, Ford is, of course, based, Ayman, you know this deeply, you know, and the DMC and all this. Now, again, going back to the entities, like what you're doing, what you've indicated with the scholars, the business schools, the incubation hubs should be highly emphasized. And no wonder I am seeing human entrepreneurship now cropping up. ICSB, I saw it, you're really advancing the theory on human entrepreneurship, whereby it's not enough. In fact, when you presented in the October conference in Uganda, when you presented one based in USA, you emphasized the humanness, the relational issue, the customers, and that's very important. Then the social entrepreneurship, I know that there will be another presentation on social entrepreneurship, I think today. So all these are rotating on the value of having the successes of these family businesses. As I conclude, because I need some more time for us to have a debate, because I also would like to learn from the participants. As we conclude, we find that the whole world, with our comparative advantages, you find that if a country is very good in manufacturing, you find the founders take on the manufacturing angle. Now, in our country, for instance, we are very, very good in agriculture. We are lucky, we have very good soils and very good weather conditions. Now, these entities that are there in different locations need to be well supported to get these benefits and to advance, and the whole world should be in sync, in synchrony. Again, as I indicated earlier, there is limited publicity of successes of family businesses in Africa. There are very few people you hear from South Africa, then in Nigeria, then some people from Tanzania like the Kereza. We see some in Murwana, like our country where we have the Murwanas, then we have some in Kenya. You see some of them are doing well. But we need to go beyond that. Those successful ones need to move on and advance the other ones that are cropping up. And I suggest that the global collaborations, for instance, with ICSB, with the universities, already we have started, we should advance. We should even go deeper and support and have grants. We have grants from the developed countries to support the family businesses, researches, the agents, the issues of angel capital, such that we advance the patient capital for these businesses. For us, we are more than ready to help in the training. So, I thank you so much for listening to me, and I know learning never ends, and I'm ready to learn a lot. Thank you so much, the moderator, Dr. Ayman. Thank you, and yes.
Family businesses are the future. And what I mean about this is because of COVID-19, because of all the pandemics and all the stuff that's going around the world, is these young people, the young generation that are in family businesses, initially would say, oh, I don't want to work in the family business anymore. I'm going to go work for a corporation. I'm going to go work for a big business. This family business is amateur. I don't like to work with my dad. I don't like to work with my uncle. I don't like to work with my cousin. I don't like to work with my mom. Whatever it is. Okay, why? Because I want to work in a professional setting. I want to work in a nice office. I want to have a nice, the polished type of corporation. You know what I mean? Right? And that's what a lot of these family businesses, these young generations left. They said, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Right? I want to go work for a professional company. But now they realize, or they're excited to realize that these professional companies, these really exciting professional companies that looked so polished and looked so organized and looked so fantastic, it's just the shine, but inside it, there is problems, there's issues, there's politics, there is lack of what I may call empathy, right? And now they start to see, well, yes, they might look very nice from the outside, but they have issues that are even worse than if I stayed in my family business. Because at the end of the day, family people that care about people, even though you fight like cats and dogs, at the end of the day, you still have some sort of love that's dead. I ask you that question, and maybe I'm absolutely wrong here, but I ask you this question. Do you see this is happening? Do you feel it? Do you notice it? Or am I totally wrong? Or maybe it's between A and B. What do you think?
You see, Ayman, it's paradoxical. When I talk of...
I like the word paradoxical.
you see, it's,
you said it earlier and I started laughing. It's like a good thing and it's a bad thing.
you see, it's a hard nut to crack. Very hard. Especially the fact that you can have, and I can see, we can have entities that rush into the humane entrepreneurship. Now, what are they borrowing? They are borrowing the familyness. They are taking on the positive side of familyness. Now, those ones who think that the family on its own will run, that's a lie. We need to work towards that. You see, you have a wife or you have a partner, but the partner is from a different culture. Now that culture needs to be worked upon. And that's why, as you rightly said, you might have a professional entity which is not family business oriented. And you think it is professional, but when it forgets the humanness, which is emphasized in the unconditional love of a family, then you're going to lose it. And that's why some of the young men and women who rush to say, for us we are going professional, they find they are frustrated from there. They find the professional is actually becoming mechanical, not professional, because everything is on time. You can just imagine, Ayman, you tell me once or twice for us to have a meeting. It takes 3 weeks. And amidst my business, I fix and we move because of the reciprocity, the exchange of favors. That's because we are taking it in the angle of unconditional love. You have not been paid for having participated as a panelist. I have not been paid for the last panelist groups. But in the names of ubiquity, in the names of that capital, we think we should advance. In fact, me and you are advancing our levels of running entities purely for purposes of longevity. Now, that's what the founders do. The founders do this kind of work, and they accept to suffer, accept to get ulcers, accept to have issues with an aim of advancing. Now, that's why the professional now have to go the angle of social entrepreneurship, of humane entrepreneurship, such that they advance. That's what I have to say about that.
You know, you use some very nice words here. First, this paradoxical thing, which is very important. You know, and also you said the humaneness, right? And then unconditional love. These hit home. These are punches that hit home. You know, but what comes to my mind here, and maybe that's the paradox, right?
Yes.
This is the paradox. There's an old saying. There's an old saying that says between love and hate is a thin line. Between love and hate, there's a thin line. You can love someone so much, but then you can also hate them so much.
Yes.
Okay? And maybe that swing of emotions between love and hate in family businesses is more evident than in corporations.
Yes.
Because you know you can love your father so much, you can love your mother so much, but they drive you crazy.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
You just can't. You know, and I can tell you many experiences here where, you know, I can tell you a personal experience. I come from a family business.
Yes.
My father ran a business, but it's a family business. So I worked with my father. I worked for my father for a while, and I was doing my MBA or I was doing my undergraduate degree. Okay, and I would be in his office while he is the executive, the CEO. Okay, and I was the rising star studying in the United States of America. I was the smart one. I was getting a degree, right? And I was the star, so and so.
Yes.
Right? And I was sitting in the office with him while he's negotiating business. Everything was done properly. I think everything should have been a system. There should have been a process. There should have been this. And I would see him work, and sometimes he would drive me crazy.